Hey there guys, and welcome to our final best team for Pokémon Legends Arceus, this time led by the new Hisuian form of Decidueye. It's been almost a month since the game dropped, and I feel that I finally have all the knowledge on this game and its mechanics and pretty much everything I need. This team is probably the most polished and complete of the three, and I'm pretty proud of it. It's been a lot of fun building teams for Legends Arceus, and also looking over the teams you guys have made. I don't know when the next best team will be made, so I'm going to cherish this one for the time being and put my all into it. There's no reason to drag out this intro any longer, let's just get into the best team for Pokémon Legends Arceus Decidueye Edition. So, Decidueye will obviously be starting off the team today, being our starter Pokemon. I like the fact that they decided to make the Hisuian form of Decidueye a fighting type, as it felt like a great alternative to its archery-based Alolan form. I've also spoken a bit about how cool of a changing color scheme this form is. As for the stats on it, it becomes more of a bulkier physical attacker, but a bit slower in return. That bump in defenses definitely helps with a new ×4 weakness to flying types, and a few of the other new ones being brought in by the fighting type. So you guys know the deal with evolving. Just get your Dartrix to level 36, and it's a Decidueye. It's very simple enough, so let's just skip over to the move pool. Decidueye's moveset it's using is Leaf Blade, Triple Arrows, Brave Bird, and Psycho Cut. Now, choosing Leaf Blade definitely made a lot of sense, as there just aren't any other physical grass-type moves in this thing's pool, with the exception of the Bush League, Leafage. It sucks that there isn't variety, but at the very least, Leaf Blade is a strong move anyway. So next up is its signature move, Triple Arrows. This new move is only 50 base power, but boosts Decidueye's critical hit ratio by 2 stages, which is big. It lowers the opposing Pokemon's defense by a stage too, pretty much making up for it only being a base 50 move. I think it's pretty great, and maybe the best move in the pool, honestly. As for Brave Bird, it's here for coverage, but it does cause recoil damage, so I'm not gonna blame you for wanting to stay away from it, whether that's by using Aerial Ace or no flying move at all. Then finally, Psycho Cut is here to take advantage of potential crit boosts with Leaf Blade, since it already has a relatively high crit ratio as well. This whole set sort of works through Triple Arrows, but that's not a bad thing by any means. Decidueye is a very strong lead for this team, but let's move on to the returning Pokemon. Our second Pokemon is making its third appearance in the Legends Arceus series of best teams. That's right, we've got none other than Gardevoir. Since this is its third time around the block, I don't think I need to go into too much detail here. It's got a slightly better move pool than Alakazam, which is the main reason it's being used over it, but feel free to use an Abra or Kadabra until you get a Ralts in the Crimson Mirelands. Once evolved into Guardy, you've got that nice 125 special attack and 115 special defense, with pretty decent everything else. So with that said, let's just hop into its moveset. The moves Gardevoir is using this time around are Psychic, Moonblast, Mystical Fire, and Ice Beam. Naturally, you gotta have Psychic and Moonblast for stab on this amazing Psychic Fairy type, so not much has to be said about that. Mystical Fire reappears, as we'll need that Fire type coverage considering the starter choice. Then finally, Ice Beam is returning from the Typhlosion team instead of Thunderbolt. Why is that, you ask? Well, an Ice move is definitely needed during this playthrough, and another powerful Pokemon will have Electric coverage later on, so it was a pretty easy choice to make. As always, if you don't particularly care for my coverage selection here, you can always go with Energy Ball, Shadow Ball, and even the likes of Calm Mind, to really give Guardy that extra boost it probably doesn't need. As I said, I tried to keep this section short as it really didn't need further explanation. Gardevoir is a monster, and is definitely a Pokemon worthy of making an appearance on every Legends Arceus best team. Making a return from the original best team, we've got Hisui and Goodra. I said not to be surprised during the Typhlosion team if Goodra were to make an appearance here, so I hope none of you were surprised. When you've got a typing like Steel and Dragon, base stats like 150 special defense, 110 special attack, and 100 in both attack and defense, you just can't go wrong. Once again, you don't need Basculegion to actually get a Gumi or Alpha Sligo in the Crimson Mirelands. Just sequence break with your Wardeer and you're good to go. On top of all that move pool is spicy, so let's take a look at what we can do with it. This week's Goodra is working with Iron Head, Dragon Pulse, Flamethrower, and Hydro Pump. As always, a lot of these coverage moves can always be swapped out for others when needed, or even if you just simply hate what I've put together. You've got Thunderbolt, Sludge Bomb, Steel Beam, Bulldoze, and the list goes on. Although Steel Beam has recoil, so do what you wish with that. However, Flamethrower and Hydro Pump do feel pretty important to me, as fire coverage is really good to have, as we aren't rocking either Fire Starter that can be found in the Hisui region, and the same applies for the water type. As you'll see later in the team, there are reasons why I didn't add either Infernape or Empoleon, leading more credence to why I've picked Goodra today. But even putting that point aside, Goodra is just plain good, so I don't really need a long explanation of why it should be used. So we can just move on to our last returning member here. Making its third appearance is none other than Rhyperior. Look, I know some of you might not be the biggest fans of this guy, but its power is undeniable. 140 attack with massive bulk. Sure, it might be a tad slow and can't take any type of hits from water or grass moves, but hey, you're only ending up in that situation if you're sending it out against a Pokemon that can demolish it. And you're not likely to do that, so I don't think it's really a concern in the grand scheme of things. Like many Pokemon across these best teams, you'll be getting Rhyhorn in the Crimson Mirelands, getting it up to level 42 to get yourself a Rhydon, and then immediately using a Protector that you found or purchased to evolve it into this behemoth. Much like the last two Pokemon, this thing has got a massively good move pool, so let's get into it. Similar to its last two appearances, Rhyperior is rocking high horsepower and Stone Edge for stab, but we'll be using two different coverage moves this time around in Megahorn and Outrage. Not to sound like a broken record, of course you don't have to use these coverage moves. You can pick anything you want, which is truly the beauty of Legends Arceus. But at this point, with the coverage we've shown, with more still to come, these are here mostly for power. Megahorn can definitely be useful against a grass type, if you've got no other choice but to face one with your Rhyperior. But it'll be far more useful against Psychic and Dark type Pokemon, and really just anything that doesn't resist the bug typing. Then of course Outrage will only put in super effective damage against other dragons, but that doesn't matter. 140 base attack on Rhyperior using a base 120 power move? Yeah, I don't want to be the Pokemon in the pathway of that. In conclusion, Rhyperior is an absolute monster, and is certainly one of the best members you could ask for on a team like this in my opinion. With that said, we've got two more members to go over, and neither of them are slouched by any means, so we've still got some excitement to be had today. So we've gone through the returning Pokemon from previous teams, which leaves us with a couple of new Pokemon to round out the squad. Back on the Typhlosion team, we introduced Crobat to the team, as a flying poison member. But this time, we're going with a ghost poison member. That's right, folks. You hear that typing and you just know. Gengar is showing up on the team today. We don't have to wait for no restriction teams for a Pokemon like Gengar to show up anymore, because you only need the link cable to evolve it now, instead of just trading. It's easy to get Ghastly in the Crimson Mirelands at night right when you arrive there. And there's even some Haunter floating around. Get that Haunter, evolve it into Gengar with the link cable, and it's confirmed. Gengar is here to kick some ass. It has 130 special attack and 110 speed, meaning it's going to often have a chance of moving twice in a row. And of course its move will pack a big punch. Let's move over to its moveset now, and see what this OG Ghost is offering us. Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Dark Pulse, and Dazzling Gleam are the moves on Gengar's set today. Shadow Ball and Sludge Bomb are both stab, and exactly what you want on a Gengar. There's a ton covered by just those two moves, so the other two on this set are sort of up to you with what you want the extra coverage for. I went with Dazzling Gleam for the main piece of coverage, but of course if you want to add on Thunderbolt, Energy Ball, or even Icy Wind to get really weird, well, feel free. All of them can be viable. Alright, final Pokemon time. It's going to be the Great Ursaluna. Now, I know we've already got a ground type on the team. I will save the discourse about what the better ground type is for another video coming out this weekend. But I can say one thing, Ursaluna is the best normal type. And on a team that pretty much covered everything already, I couldn't help but pick a normal type. Ursaluna is a complicated Pokemon to get for some people. You need a Peat Block, and you'll have to wait for a full moon to evolve an Ursaring for this. You can get to Ursa's Ring into the Crimson Mirelands and grab Teddiursa or an Alpha Ursaring. And as I said, just sniff around for a Peat Block, and then wait for that full moon. Ursaluna has a powerful 140 base attack, so it's going to hit harder than anything else on the team. The exact power you want from a mop-up Pokemon like this. I think Ursaluna could have probably fit even better on the original best team. But of course, I wasn't 100% confident in everything at that point like I am now, weeks after the game's release. It's alright though, because Ursaluna is getting its rub here despite being annoying to get. Today's final moveset on our Ursaluna is Giga Impact, Headlong Rush, Thunder Punch, and Shadow Claw. Giga Impact, as far as I can tell, doesn't really take a recharge turn, so it's a massively strong normal type move. So you want to use it for sure, and Headlong Rush is another good stab move. This time for its ground typing. It lowers Ursaluna's defense, but that's not too big of a deal. It's worth it when you're probably doing a massive amount of damage. Then Thunder Punch is there for some coverage, since we didn't do too much with electric typing up to this point. And Shadow Claw is just backup for Gengar on a physical end. As you can see on screen though, Ursaluna has a bunch of great coverage moves, so you can switch in whatever best suits you at any one point in the game, since Ursaluna, as I said, is serving as the ultimate mop-up support. So that's the team, and once again, we have to go over what we can cover with this squad. Again, I'll start by going for the nobles. The first one you have to deal with is Cleaver, and with Cleaver, you can at least hit around with the flying type move from your Dartrix, and probably survive the battle. Then we move on to Lilligant. Your flying moves will be enough for that too, on top of any other coverage your team has. Arcanine isn't trying to deal with the Ursaluna or a Rhyhorn, so you know, easy time here. Electrode is just bodied by a fire type move, it's laughable. Finally, in your battle with Avalugg, it's going to be done in by any sort of special attacking fighting or steel move that you decide to go for. Don't overthink it, it isn't that hard knocking off this walking table. Let's not forget about the few trainer battles too. The simple battles, like the early ones, with Volo, the Rival, and Mai. They're easy, and we don't have to worry too much about naming off moves for them. The battle with Leon before dealing with Cleaver involves having to beat Gumi, which is still a little annoying no matter what you're bringing in to face him, but it'll be fine. You've got battles scattered across Hisui with the Misfortune Sisters, and for the first one, you'll be able to once again pull out your Kirlia to put down Coin's Toxicroak. Not long after, you'll need to beat the 3 of them in succession, and Gardevoir can pretty much handle all of these battles herself. Pull out Psychic, Mystical Fire, and Ice Beam, and it's all but over. Their Pokemon wouldn't be able to handle the power. Ingo is a fun one, and it's another battle Gardevoir can pretty much handle on her own. Ice Beam and Psychic is all you'll really need to book your ride on the Subway of Victory. You'll have some run-ins with Adaman and Irida with their Ice Grass evolutions, but Fire-type moves are more than enough to handle them both. And Decidueye using Fighting Flying moves works as well. We move on now to the more challenging battles, starting with Benny. His team is Mismagius, Sneasler, Gardevoir, and Gallade. A combined effort by Gardevoir and Gengar should be enough to handle this Wally ancestor, which then leads us into Komodo. You're able to easily take on everything he has got. Gengar claps back Braviary and Clefable, and Decidueye can handle Golem and Snorlax. After you get through that battle, you deal with Palkia and Dialga, and getting through them is definitely not as difficult as it might sound. Rhyperior and Guardy are all you'll need for ground and fairy moves. Then we move on to the difficult and at times annoying Volo fight. Once again, it's just a near identical version of Cynthia's championship team, with the exception of Arcanine, which takes the place of Milotic, who isn't in the game. You'll want to turn to a trifecta of Gardevoir and Rhyperior for this one, of course. Togekiss gets taken down with an Ice move, Lucario can get bopped by Mystical Fire moves, and Arcanine is easy to overcome by Rhyperior, much like earlier in the game. Then, for Roseraiden's Spiritomb, you can use Guardy on her own, and for Garchomp too, of course. Then, once you overcome Volo, you must defeat Giratina twice, and it is difficult. It might look easy enough to just use Guardy on this thing, but it will hit you hard, and will take you out unless you're fully trained up values-wise. That's it for the battles though, after you overcome Volo and Giratina. Once again, I'm saying Gardevoir is the MVP of the team. A shout out to Ursaluna, since it's just such a jack of all trades with its power, that it can come through and do anything. Well, that's it. That's the final best team for Legends Arceus now. I like this team a lot when putting it together, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think about how it stacks up versus the original best team. That's it though. I'm finally going to get some much needed team building rest. Until next time guys. Hey guys. thank you for enjoying another Mystic Umbreon video. It's exciting times for the Pokemon franchise, and I look forward to the coming months where it just keeps getting better. If you guys are wanting some more bite-sized Mystic Umbreon content, please check out my TikTok, where I upload daily, as well as the Mystic Umbreon Shorts channel. If y'all enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Be sure to leave a comment too, it really helps us out. I think it's time to wrap this up though. I'm Mystic Umbreon, and I'll see you next time with some more amazing Pokemon content.